On today's show, buying a house with plumbing problems in Houston.
Who told you we're plumbers? We're plumbers!
I'm John Eccles. Richard Sod. In a perfect world, you go look at a house. It's the one that is it. This is my house. I want to buy this house, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you discover, when you hire somebody to do a home inspection, that maybe there's problems, maybe there's not. You move in, and in a perfect world, everything works out great, doesn't it?
That's right.
In Houston, it doesn't exactly operate like that.
Life's not perfect.
No, not even with a new house.
That's true.
I can't even tell you guys in a new homes how many items need to be fixed before you close.
Yeah.
And that's typical, right? That these home inspectors find. Now, what does a home inspector not do?
Well, he's not a plumbing specialist for sure.
Correct.
So there's a bunch of things that he doesn't do.
That is correct. One of them is plumbing. Plumbing's behind your walls, under the slab, in between attic and floor space, or second story and floor space. Can't see it, right?
Right.
Most of the guts are covered up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he can only do what he can do, and that means a visual inspection.
That's right.
So on today's show, how do we go deeper? How do we go more
Below the surface?
below the surface? There's the word I'm looking for. That's right. And figure this stuff out. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, home inspectors are great for overall inspections, like you're saying, the visual thing. But I mean, if you're talking about buying a home, and let's face it, homes aren't cheap, right? It's probably normally the number one investment that someone's going to put down for themselves in their life. I would think that you'd want to check out things that could be a potential issue or problem that you're going to have to pay for after the fact, and make sure those things are okay prior to that big purchase.
But wait a minute, John. The homeowner signed a disclosure statement, right?
Right.
He said everything's good.
Well, that's true, but here's the thing. If the home inspector doesn't find it and the seller didn't know about it, how can they be blamed?
But then the next question is, or answer, how many phone calls and how many times have we gone to people's homes where they just move in and their sewer's completely shut down?
Yeah.
Well, that just didn't happen yesterday.
Nope.
It's been happening. So what did the homeowner do? He lied.
Yeah.
What a concept.
And
Being deceitful, right? But that happens more than what you guys know, that the homeowners don't divulge what's happening within their home. Right. They expect you to pick it up. And if they don't get caught, oh well. And then all of a sudden you get in there and you've got a complete shutdown on the sewer. And then all of a sudden your whole mindset goes, well, I'm going to sue that guy. Well, how does that work out?
It never works out well.
It never works out well. You're chasing good money after bad money when you could fix the sewer, because nothing's going to come up. And you have to prove that he actually knew that he had a problem with sewer. And just because we went over there and unstopped it a year ago doesn't prove anything.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
You can use my tickets if I'd been to that house and say, well, I unstopped it every 4 months and I recommended replacing the sewer. Well, there wasn't a problem when he sold the house, was there? Get it?
Yeah.
That's where it can go. And you're going to lose.
Yeah, so the best way to to not be in that situation is prior to just having that home inspector doing everything, or prior to closing on that house, have an actual licensed plumber come out to your home and check the plumbing system. We're talking about a plumbing system that all inclusive is probably worth, probably 40% of your home. Right? Wouldn't you say it's close? Is that about right?
Yeah.
35, 40%?
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about repair plumbing versus new construction where, things are in the way, the walls are up, the slab's already poured, stuff of that nature. So, it's a vital part of the well-being of your home, and it has some high-ticket items that could possibly be damaged or not of any use to you, and you're going to have to repair or replace it,
You know what that's called? Due diligence.
That's it.
Do your due diligence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's on you to do that. And a home inspector is fantastic. They're great. They have a certain position that they can do and not do and take. And that's why you need to hire a plumbing company to finish these inspections.
That's right.
Now, whether your real estate agent tells you or not, you need somebody like us to do what you call hydrostatic testing, right? And visual checking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pressure checking.
So when we're talking about these kind of inspections, and what we like to do for homeowners is, let's go through the list of things that can go wrong, right? Number one thing is probably the sewer line and the home's drain system. A very easy way to check that would be a camera inspection. That's not really intrusive, right? That's where we get to visually see the inside of your pipes. What do they look like? What are they made of? What material is it? So that way we'll get an age. What condition is the inside in? Is there any separations, breaks, anything of those natures, right? And then we can take that next step. What Richard said, the hydrostatic test, if we want to go further, and that's where we're literally putting it, basically filling up the drain system with water and plugging it so it can't drain out, and seeing if there's any cracks that it's going to leak through, if there's any way that the water's escaping. Those are very important. A sewer system, an entire sewer system, is very expensive. Your typical sewer line probably averages in the range of $3,000 to $5,000. That's the outside sewer line. Under your house, you can probably triple that easily.
20 grand?
Yeah.
30 grand?
Easy.
Depending on how big the house is?
Yeah, depending on size, obviously, and different variables for the sewer line. Are we breaking up concrete? Are we not breaking up concrete?
That's right.
I literally talked to a gentleman this morning about this exact thing, buying a house, had it inspected. He used another company, which is great, and I know the company that he did, and it was a good choice, right? And that company doesn't do repair work. So he called us, hey, I just need to know, ballpark, what am I looking at? And of course, I'm looking at a drawing.
That's called a lot.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a drawing, and me and him went through some stuff, and he says, look, just give me a range. That way you're not wasting your time. And so I told him, and his range was over 20 grand, right? Easily. And he's like, oh, wow. Okay. That makes a big difference on what I'm going to go back to the seller with, because we know that it's in poor condition. Well, that's something that, man, we hear it all the time. I just bought this house. We're having a sewer issue, and it could
all the time.
It could be taken care of and put into the contract with a $300 to $600 test, right? But
that's correct.
Yeah. Another thing that, a lot of times they look at these, but man, an in-depth look at your water heater, right? Which is probably second or third most expensive plumbing appliance or plumbing portion, right? Sewer probably number one, probably your water system number two, water heater number three. Depending on what kind of water heater you have, what condition it is, the things we want to look for is, hey, how old is it?
Right.
Where is it located? Is it located over my garage, in a closet, over the living room, the living area, and it's 12 years old? All right, potential for leak in my living space once I get everything moved in. That's something that nobody wants to have happen. So knowing the age, knowing where it's located, knowing what kind of water heater you have. Is it a tank style? Is it a tankless? Does it look like it's been maintained? Does it not look like it's been maintained? A lot of times we tell our customers, if they are buying a home and the water heater's aged over 7 years, it's a good idea to ask for a concession for replacement.
Correct.
Right.
I would every time. You might not get it. Their response back to you is going to be, well, it's working. I'm not going to pay you for something that's working. Well, just understand that 7-year-old tank can go out any day.
Yep.
That's the bottom line in Houston, right? Go out any day. So you need to have enough money set back to be able to pay for that if they're not going to, and you still want to buy the house.
What's the average cost of those?
Well, let's give a range of $1,800 to $2,500.
That's for a tank.
That's for a tank.
Tankless are probably $4,000 to $6,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and again, these are all ballpark averages. There's a bunch of variables that go into all this kind of stuff. But, you know, that's what we tell customers when they call and ask us. You know, those are the kind of things that happen. And if you're not getting it checked out thoroughly, it can bite you.
That's right.
Yeah, and another easy one, and this one kind of, you know, gets overstepped some. You know, my mom used to always say this: you can tell a lot about a person and their home by their toilet.
And how well it's kept.
That's right. That's right. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, every time I go to someone's house and I pee, I pay attention to it.
Right.
But you know, so you know, when we're talking about toilets, you know, there's things that get just pushed off. You know, is it rock? Right, rocking commodes. Is it discolored at the base? How old have the commodes been? How old are they in there right then? You know, a rocking base and discoloration on the floor could be what, possibly? Broken flange?
Broken flange.
Right, broken flange, which, hey, it's not super cheap to fix.
No.
Right? What if the commode needs to be replaced? What do commodes go for?
You're looking at a cheap one at $600.
Yeah.
One that's like dirt cheap.
Yeah. Now, of course, that's...
And it'll go up to 10 grand.
And, of course, that's purchase of commode and install.
That's right.
So I know...
Sky's the limit on toilets, though.
Yeah.
You can spend 10 grand.
I don't want to get beat up in our comments about, I seen one at Home Depot for $175.
Yeah.
We're talking about purchase of and installed by a licensed plumber. But yeah, so I mean, all those different things, especially in the toilet, can really take effect. And it's just another thing that people will totally just look past.
Disregard.
Because they go like this: oh, look how big this bathroom is. And then a week later, hey, our commode don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we got to replace that. Oh, look, the one in the hall doesn't work neither. How many commodes are in the house? 4. Oh, well, heck, 600 times 4. We're adding up We're adding up pretty quick.
And those are cheap toilets.
Yeah.
Those aren't expensive toilets, you guys.
Yeah.
It can really add up. That means you've got to do your due diligence. And a home inspector does a great visual check. But you need to go more in depth. That's the bottom line when you're purchasing a house.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Now, going back to what I said earlier, when you're talking about new construction or you're talking about a house that's been constructed at a certain age, it's the same thing. The same due diligence needs to happen. And I want to tell everybody a story. This happened in my career 5 years ago. And I went over to this house to look at this. I couldn't believe it. This house was a monster. It had, 6.5 bathrooms. Beautiful house. When the homeowner, the new person purchased it, brand new home, new person purchased it, the builder went out of business.
Uh-oh.
Right? She finished the house herself and moved in, started using the master bathroom. The other bathrooms weren't heavily used. Next thing you know, the master bathroom's not draining. Feces and stuff are coming up in the shower, okay?
Wow.
So we went over there and started trying to figure out what was going on. We couldn't get it to drain. So then we went further in our due diligence and ran the camera system. They ran the entire trunk line to this house backwards, which means the whole house was draining to the master bathroom.
To the master bath. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And the house got inspected. So you ask, how can this happen, right? Even in a new house, house got inspected, right, by the city. Well, this is what people don't understand. The city is here to protect you. The city is here to protect us as well, right? But they're here to make sure we're not using illegal fittings, putting things backwards. They're not checking fall and slope. They don't care about that. They just want to make sure that we're installing the system properly, right? And again, this is why it's so important that you do your due diligence before you buy a house, because this would have been caught before.
Wow.
So ask me how much the fix was.
I got a question. How much was it to fix that?
$140,000. That was a $140,000 fix. Now,
pricey.
you just bought the house,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Builder's out of business.
You're pretty much going to have a heart attack.
And the builder's out of business.
Yeah,
You know,
and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, what
I mean, that house is not livable.
Wow.
Yeah, nothing you could do. Nothing she could do. You had to fix it or sell the home and disclose it after she had just bought it.
Box of matches.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
But she didn't do her due diligence. She had a home inspector. The guy did a fantastic job. He pointed out another 50 things that were wrong, but you can't do plumbing.
Yeah.
You need somebody like us to do plumbing. So what you should take away from today's show is due diligence,
Yeah.
right? It is on you. It's not on anybody else. You have to do that and spend the money so you know up front what you're getting and what you're going into. Whether the house was just built or if it's older, doesn't matter.
That's right. So last item on our list is probably, it ranks right up there with the sewer line. It's definitely number 1 or 2 when it comes to probably the most important things you want to check. And it's going to be your water supply system, right? When we say that, that encompasses a lot of things, but mainly what we're talking about is the water supply coming into the home and that carries it to your faucets, right? So the water piping that's normally in your walls or in your attic, right? And what's very important on this piece is material and age. How old is it and what material is it?
What kind?
Because if you got galvanized, right, oh man, we know that that's going to have to be replaced at some point and probably sooner than later. You know, another thing to look out for would be probably the water pressure in the home. And that'll take you right back to what material it is, right? Normally, if you have low water pressure, again, you're going to see that galvanized pop its head. But hey, hopefully it's copper maybe, you know, PEX, right? CPVC, right? But you definitely want to know those things because that is, not only is it an expense, but there's some light construction, I guess you would call it, that normally happens when something like that goes bad and needs to be replaced or repaired. Now, going along with that, obviously we would check, you know, supply lines, shut-off valves to make sure they're operating properly and that none of them are swollen, they're, you know, stainless steel braided, all the great stuff that we want to ensure that your home is going to be safe and sound. But if you've ever seen one of our shows, we talk about water repiping a lot, and it can be disastrous for someone that doesn't know what they're looking for, and that problem come up. And it's a fairly big expense. Again, it's probably number 1 or number 2 on the list, depending on the home. You know, the average cost of those is what, $4,500 to $10,000. Again, a lot
Depends
of variables.
how big,
yeah, a lot of variables,
and how it's ran. Yeah, I mean, we've done them as high as 50.
Yeah.
So depends on the house, how it's built, how many bathrooms. Depends on that cost.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at a typical home in Houston is 2.5 bathrooms,
Right.
You're looking at between 10, 15 grand typically.
Yeah. You know, and so again, you know, we started adding up the average cost that we started talking about across our little cheat sheet here. And again, we're not getting really deep. We're just going big ticket items.
Right.
These are just big ticket items. There's faucets that we didn't touch. You know, if you get into a house that has, you know, 60-year-old faucets on every, you know, sink, that's a big deal. What about sinks? What condition are they? I mean, there's a ton of different things, but these are the big ticket items because, I mean, you're talking just what we've been talking about is, you know, depending on the house, $30,000 to $70,000
Yeah.
of problems that we're trying to help you avoid with a few expert, you know, eyes on it. That's all it is.
That's right.
So, with that being said, if you plan on buying a home and you're not sure if it has a problem or not, give us a call. You know, we'll be happy to come put a set of eyes on it and look at the home inspector's report and see what he says and dig a little deeper. And like Richard said, we want to get below that surface and really find out what's going on with that home before you make that purchase. Wouldn't you say?
Totally agree.
We're always here. If you have a question, you have a concern, give us a call. We're always at the office. We encourage you to call, use our knowledge, get the information.
We will give it to you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see y'all next week.